Today we are talking about the things that we should be looking for during the spring game. We have a new offense, a new quarterback who isn't decided yet, a wide receiver room that appears to be lacking from Sark's comments, and a newly reassembled offensive line. Oh, and the best back in the nation. Can't forget about that. Over on D, that scheme is brand new as well. The defense has been the winner in most practice and scrimmage settings, and we have a lot to look forward to on this side of the ball with this particular group of guys. By the end of the video, we will know what to look for on offense and defense in both of their new schemes, allowing us to watch the spring game with a greater understanding. I'm bringing in Ian A. Boyd to help us. He's an author and sports writer known to us for his work on Inside Texas. Ian's the best X's and O's guy in all of Texas media, and his book Flyover Football was a big inspiration to me in wanting to communicate the beauty of the game in a more artful way. Make sure to head over to Inside Texas and subscribe so you can see all of Ian's super in-depth articles about this team's new strategy and scheme. That's InsideTexas.com, and it's worth every penny. And as you know by now, this video is sponsored by Last Stand Hats. They have tons of designs and hat types that are all officially licensed by the University of Texas. So go pick up your new hat for the season. Use promo code TexasHomer for 10% off your hat purchase at LastStandHats.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so I can keep bringing you bigger and better Texas Longhorn content. Consider joining as a channel member if you like what you see. Now let's have some fun and see what we need to keep an eye out for this Saturday when the Longhorns play the Longhorns in the spring game. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Hey Ian, thanks for coming on, man. You know you're my favorite writer in the UT space. I'm excited to pick your brain and learn a thing or two, so welcome to the channel.
Thanks so much for having me on. It's a relief to look back a year ago. The spring game is canceled, and I'm facing a summer of wondering, is college football going to happen this fall? Very different place a year later. We get the spring game. There's no real concerns about college football happening. So I'm just excited to dive in and indulge all of our wildest speculation about what Texas football will be this year.
Me too, man. I'm excited, and the Sark hire is actually becoming more real. So let's start off on offense. Sark has some things he likes to do on the offensive side of the ball. RPOs, play action, motion, etc. But what are you expecting this offense to look like come this Saturday?
We might see a wide breadth of different types of offense in the spring game. I know coaches usually like to keep it vanilla in these scrimmages, especially when they have not put anything on film yet in their new school. But for Sark, keeping it vanilla, it might still be showing multiple personnel groups. It might be him showing multiple run schemes, multiple passing concepts. They have a huge playbook, and they're not trying to catch you by surprise with what they can run. They're going to show you a million different things they can run, and then they'll catch you by fine-tuning it to match up against your weakness, to motion the right matchup, to have just the right formation to make the play effective against the way you like to play defense. And so it could be vanilla in Sark terms, but still look very different to Texas fans who might be totally unused to seeing, some 12 personnel. Maybe they'll get under center. Maybe they'll go pistol. Maybe they'll be in the shotgun. Maybe they'll be in four receivers. Maybe the tight ends will be moving around. I don't know how much they'll show, but I know that they could show a lot without showing as much as you even think they are.
Okay, so since we are going to see a varied offense, let's tap into the personnel and see which guys could help us at certain spots. First, let's talk quarterbacks. What does a quarterback need to be able to do under a Sarkisian offense? What are the top skills?
I think in this year in particular, because Bijan Robinson is obviously the best player on the team, the most important trait for the quarterback will be to be able to execute play action and RPOs that protect and maximize what Bijan offers to the offense. So whatever they're killing it with when they give the ball to Bijan, if it's outside zone, probably will be. But if it's power, whatever else, the quarterback needs to be the guy who is most effective at throwing RPOs and play action off of those run plays. And then also with whatever these wide receivers are good at. So right now, what we're hearing is Jordan Whittington is far and away the most reliable wide receiver. He's good underneath. He's good in the RPO game. He can get open underneath. He can break some tackles or make some guys miss. So then you're looking at, okay, which of these guys is going to be most effective getting the ball to Jordan Whittington on play action and RPOs in a way that will complement Bijan running the ball.
So the best QB for the offense will be able to execute RPOs and play actions that benefit directly from the defense's attention on Bijan. In theory, and only in theory, who is better suited for the offense as a quarterback?
In theory, it would be Hudson Card. In theory, Casey Thompson's best fit is going to be an offense that is a little more quarterback option from the shotgun, some zone read, some draws, things like that. A little closer to what Tom Herman was running. And Tom Herman did recruit him to Texas for a reason. He's a little smaller, like Greg Ward. That didn't stop Tom Herman from giving Greg Ward the ball on 200 carries a year. So that's a little more his fit. I know we've all seen him make some impressive throws, especially in the Alamo Bowl. A lot of those were play action shots down the field. That will hopefully be something Texas can still mix in this season. Hopefully they find some guys that can get open deep on a post route to throw it to. But in the RPO game, you're looking at making quick decisions and quick accurate throws underneath a lot. And Hudson Card, a little better fit for the RPO game, a better fit for an offense that doesn't ask the quarterback to be a part of the run game, and then still effective throwing the ball down the field. He's just more of the pro style passer that Sarkisian has tended to prefer than Casey Thompson is.
It'll be nice to finally get to see both of the quarterbacks out there and get a stronger understanding for their skill sets. So we should be looking for RPOs and play actions on Saturday from both of those guys. Since this offense is predicated on Bijan, what will we see Sark design for Bijan, and how varied will his role be?
It sounds like they want to get him the ball a lot of different ways. I think one way will just be a very multiple run game. I've been talking up in my articles. I've been talking up outside wide zone because Texas was running it very well at the end of last year, especially when Jake Majors was playing center because he's so quick. So I think we'll see a lot more of that. But this coaching staff, I mean, with Najee Harris, they ran everything. They ran multiple types of power schemes, counter schemes, inside, outside zone, different varieties of inside and outside zone. So I think they will run as much of that stuff as they can get away with this offensive line, and they're gonna pick the most athletic, versatile offensive linemen and just they'd allow them to just run the ball in a million different ways. And then as far as throwing to Bijan, I mean, they threw to Najee Harris. They throw him, swing passes to the flat. They'd have him run wheel routes. That kid is so versatile. If they want to get him out in the slot and have him run around there, that wouldn't be shocking as well, especially if this team is struggling to find go-to receivers and Bijan Robinson is a menace. We could see more of them just going five wide, get Bijan matched up in an option route on somebody and just try to pick up quick, easy gains, much like they would do with Ellinger when Ellinger was throwing to Lil Jordan Humphrey or Devin Duvernay. They would have those two guys run like running back type option routes in the slot as well. So we could see Bijan used in that way too. It'll be, how many touches a game can he handle? And then however many they feel that is, he'll probably get it.
So it's safe to say the 2021 Longhorns will be a run-first team?
Without question. I think this team goes as far as Bijan can carry them, basically. Now, Rashawn Johnson, also a good player. I'm sure he'll get the ball a lot. But Rashawn may get the ball an awful lot just because they gear the offense so much around the running back. If you want to feature the running back in 40 to 50 plays a game, they can't all be for Bijan, or he will not make it. So we could see a very, very running back focused offense that actually generates enough carries for both of these guys to see some numbers, much like that team that Texas fans remember fairly well, that 2005 USC team where Reggie Bush had off the top of I looked it up the other day, but I think Reggie Bush had like 205 carries and Lendale White had 195 or something like that. I don't think we'll see. I don't think we'll see that even a split because Bijan may be close to Reggie Bush, but I don't know if Rashawn Johnson is close to Lendale White or not. But you know, 250, 100, 250, 150, 300 touches for Bijan, 150 touches for Rashawn. I think we'll see something like that.
Sounds like we are heading in the right direction with giving our backs the touches they require to take over games. Now, the tight ends are always a point of contention amongst the fan base. So let's talk about the majority receiving tight ends. Is that looking like Jared Wiley will fill this role?
I've been expecting to hear that Wiley is going to come alive in that role, and we haven't heard that much about Wiley thriving there. Yeah. Now he had some pretty impressive snaps last year when he was either flexed out or usually when he was flexed out, he did some impressive things. Posting up some defensive backs and making some big catches. We haven't heard a whole lot about it, so I don't know. I think maybe the most likely guys we are to see in a more full-time flexed out role would be Braden Liebrock when he's back from injury. If he's if he takes to it quickly, which I think he might because he was quite good in high school at it. And then of course, Jatavian Sanders is coming in. That guy certainly has some experience running around out wide. If they want to use tempo, which I know they will some, I don't think it'll be as integral to the offense as it was under Tom Herman. Then Cade Brewer is actually pretty useful because he has years and years and years of experience lining up in a lot of different places and running a lot of different sorts of routes. So if you want to use tempo and flex out the tight end, Cade Brewer is really useful. You can send him out, like to get back to an earlier point, you want to throw it to Bijan in the slot. Well, you can flex out Cade Brewer out wide, get him to draw a corner or somebody that is really good in coverage, and then they're wasted on Brewer, and then you motion out Bijan in the slot, let him run circles around the linebacker.
Cool, cool. I actually wanted to talk about Cade Brewer. He gets a lot of flack from the fan base, and I believe it's entirely due to the common misunderstanding between what an H-back is and what a tight end is. Cade is often our H-back, not our tight end. So can you explain to us the role of the H-back and what Cade allows Sark's offense to do?
As an H-back, Cade Brewer is a mobile blocker. He's off the ball a little bit. So that means if he's like on the line as a tight end, then he has to block whoever's in front of him. But if he steps back a little bit, he's more like a fullback. He could enter in the offensive line at different points and add a blocker. And the reason this really matters is because Texas runs a lot of RPOs, or they will under Sark. And so you have your 5 offensive linemen, and then you have your H-back. So that's 6 blockers. If the defense wants to have a free guy to hit the running back when he has the ball, they need 6 guys to take on 6 blocks, fill those gaps, and then they need 1 more guy to handle the extra gap and be the guy who is free to hit the running back, or else Bijan is running through arm tackles and you're in a world of hurt. So what Texas will do is they will punish that 7th guy that tries to come to tackle Bijan by having someone run a route that he needs to be responsible for either directly defending or for helping to defend. And that's the pass option, that's the RPO. So the benefit of having a H-back who's lined up like a fullback and he can move at different points is that now he's moving to different points. The defense has to react like that after the snap. And then they give away who's going to be vulnerable to a quick pass to Jordan Whittington. I know this is very confusing for fans because in the NFL game, the tight end position is all about your big matchup guy who can foil man coverage because no one can cover him. The Travis Kelce, the Rob Gronkowski. College doesn't really work that way. It's cool to have a guy like that. Florida made hay with Kyle Pitts a year ago. He was a guy like that. But most of the time, the tight ends that are really useful in the college game are the guys that suck in defenders on RPO and play action. They are not the guys that flex out and beat man coverage. that is that's a more high level NFL skill, and colleges they don't really major in that. So Brewer, he's not Gronkowski. Everyone can see that, but he doesn't need to be Gronkowski to be very valuable in a college offense.
Thanks, man. And I hope fans can better understand Cade's value on the field because it's not always flashy, but it's absolutely crucial. If you've been reading between the lines at Sark's pressers, and it's not a hard read, we seem to be struggling with wide receiver speed and technical ability. If we don't have long speed to get over the top, then we can't unlock the middle. If our technique is poor, then we can't get off press or utilize the proper footwork on timing routes. How would a lack of speed and technique by the wide receivers affect us?
I don't know enough about techniques and the proper way to get open outside to know exactly what's missing. But I do know that watching the offense last year, nobody could get open unless they were schemed open in the slot. So I started calling it the 5-slot offense. And by that, I meant that Texas had all these guys that were theoretically dangerous if you could scheme them open in the slot. But somebody always had to go outside, and teams figured out, just put one guy on him and he's done. Just play him in man coverage and he's done. So that's certainly a big problem. It's a potentially huge limiting factor if teams can just play man coverage outside and then load the box to stop Bijan. And they desperately need the guy who can get separation against man coverage outside, the guy who can win over the top on a post route or on a go or something, to keep defenses from just, locking everything down. If they don't have that, it's going to matter against all of the good to great defenses that are on the schedule, of which there are a fair few.
And due to that lack of speed and technical skill, how does that morph the playbook and the offense in general? So, does that result in less wide receivers on the field for us?
It could. Even if you put, 2 tight ends on the field, you're still going to need one of your receivers to line up on the line of scrimmage and beat a corner one-on-one. So there's not an easy fix to that problem. But at the very least, if you get 2 tight ends on the field, you might be able to just run the ball even if the other team loads the box. So we could see some 2 tight ends a little bit more as a result of some of the struggles at wide receiver. That can be a solution against some teams. Against other teams, it will not really help. It also will depend on Jordan Whittington. Is he good when he's looking good in practice? Is he looking good when he's outside, or is he looking good when they move him into the slot? If he's only good when he's in the slot, then you still need to be able to create a slot, and there are less options for doing that if you have extra tight ends on the field. There are some options, but you just kind of narrow your playbook. I think ultimately this team needs either Troy O'Mary to really put it together as he gets healthy and rehabs, or they need to steal a receiver from somebody else.
Speed is absolutely essential to Sark's offenses, so we will see exactly how it all plays out in the portal. The offensive line is also interesting this year because we are seeing Flood move guys around and really try to solve the puzzle. So, how will the offensive line handle our base runs, like inside zone or outside zone?
I expect them to be pretty good there. They've been a good inside zone team for the last few years. Last year, they didn't emphasize it as much. They emphasized outside zone more, but they were a solid inside zone team. They really mastered outside zone at the end of the year, particularly when Jake Majors started playing at center, because he has so much quickness. And with inside zone, everyone steps in the same direction, but they're looking to drive the defense backwards off the ball. That's what Tom Herman was all about. Drive them backwards off the ball, over and over and over again. Outside zone, you're looking to go wide of them so that they have to either run with you and potentially get beat by you to the edge, or they start scrambling, trying to make up for it, and then you open up cutback lanes. So it's a little bit more about lateral quickness. I expect them to be good at both because they have some big experienced guards on this team, and Jake Majors is so quick inside at center. And then they'll run counter, they'll run power. This staff will run anything and everything they feel this team can do well.
So we still have to figure out the left tackle and right tackle situation. We are still getting beat too much on the edge in practice. So does our current lack of pass setting skill limit us to quicker throws and less drop back progression passing?
Yeah, for sure. I think that will limit what they give the quarterbacks. They also have inexperienced quarterbacks, so progression passing where they drop back and they're going 1, 2, 3, 4. That's probably going to come along a little bit slowly for the quarterbacks anyway. So you add in the fact that the starting tackles may not be, they're not going to be drafted in the 2022 draft in the early rounds at offensive tackle. Nobody on this team will. So those two factors combined, I think, make that pretty plain for the offense. They will be able to throw the ball down the field when they use play action, but in terms of normal progression drop back, I think that will be de-emphasized, and they will probably have some creative solutions for third down when they have no choice but to do some progression passing. I think they will just give those quarterbacks as many handholds as whether that's Bijan flexing out, whether that's just give Jordan Whittington an option route and just try to throw him open, things like that.
Our pass sets will improve rapidly from their current state, so it's not a doom and gloom thing. This is just how coaching a new team works. This offensive line could really work out for us if we get everybody in their right spots and turn those traits into skills. So, what could this offensive line evolve into by the fall?
The offensive line, they may have some struggles in protection. They have some green tackles in terms of trying to protect the edge. But this team has a very, very athletic, promising center in Jake Majors. They have big, experienced guards in Junior Angalau and Denzel Okafor. And everyone on this team that is in position to be in the top 5, top 6, top 7 offensive linemen, they are athletic. They are big, athletic, and versatile, more so than we've seen in years at Texas, years and years. So it's very possible that this unit is very, very good in the run blocking game, versatile, and just able to whip Big 12 defensive fronts that don't have the athletes to keep up.
This group has some real potential due to their experience and their athleticism. We know Sark's offense is looking to generate explosive plays and attack consistently. So, what is Sark looking to scheme up to ensure these plays occur?
I think this team is going to focus on making the most of their athletes in the offensive line, making the most of Bijan Robinson. And for sure, Sark, he wants to attack people. He wants to take the top off the defense. I think they'll look to mix that in when they can create advantages, just sort of maybe sort of sneak those little knockout shots in unexpectedly, because he knows that the main course, when they really need yardage, when they really need to move the ball, it's going to be block him up front, give it to Bijan, let him cook. I'm sure they're also hoping that if they give it to Bijan 20 times a game, he's going to break, 5 good long runs that make a score on that given drive more likely.
It's going to be interesting to see how all the moving parts come together on offense this Saturday. We also have a brand new scheme on defense, courtesy of Coach Kwiatkowski. It's an aggressive style of play that merges deception with rock-solid technique. So what makes a PK defense so unique?
What makes PK's defense unique is something that you touched on in your video, which is that he's using these hybrid linebacker ends on the edge in his 2-4-5 nickel defense. And those guys they're like 3-4 outside linebackers. They're like, back when the Steelers were killing it with James Harrison and Lamar Woodley, and they have like one of these guys on either edge. You don't know which one's coming. And they're always playing outside in. PK uses players like that. He allows them to play like that, but he has only 2 defensive linemen inside of them in his nickel defense. So he's getting the positives of having like a 4-2-5 nickel defense with lots of speed on the field.
Daddy, I'm hungry.
Oh, that one.
Hungry.
You're good, man.
No carrots in here.
Hello. It's all good, man. That's the glory of YouTube. Turns out We're real humans, and there is no studio set. So it's all good, man. That was funny. All right. So back to PK's scheme. You were mentioning the Steelers' defense with the two deadly outside linebackers.
Just like the Steelers were killing it back in the day when they were able to play two star pass rushing outside linebackers at a time. The Steelers weren't able to do that anymore after a while because the Patriots would spread them out and pick them apart. PK's nickel defense is designed to still use two guys like that, only play two defensive linemen inside of them so that they can have speed, they can have versatility on the field, and they can have these high impact edge players on the field who are blowing things up and disrupting things and creating options in the blitz. He's all in. He's committed to, being able to make the most of in linebacker hybrids like that. And so long as they have them at Texas, it's going to be something that makes Texas stand out.
I've had a blast breaking down PK's scheme, and I've learned a lot. On the defensive line, there's two groups, the defensive tackles and the edge players. So first, how is PK looking to utilize the defensive tackles?
I think that for the defensive tackles, not a tremendous amount will change from what Chris Ash was doing. They'll be able to get up the field some. They will be, getting up in the guards in the center, attacking them, driving them back. Chris Ash actually would two gap with his defensive lineman some. He would ask him. That can mean a lot of different things. I think that's one of the most confusing things in football when people hear a guy's a two gapper. What Ash did some, and what I think PK will do some, is have his defensive linemen look to do things like attack the linemen and shove them sideways so that you push them into the next guy over on the line. So you're in one gap, and then the other gap is non-existent because those two linemen have been pushed into each other. The goal is just to give the running back nowhere to go. So they will have to do some literally heavy lifting tasks like that, but they'll also get to they'll let Alfred Collins eat as well. They'll let him get in the backfield and do some work. It'll be I expect for the defensive tackles it'll be they'll do a lot of different things, but it'll be mostly pretty standard work of push the pocket, eliminate inside gaps.
Our defensive tackles this year are dominant, so we have a lot to work with on the interior. On the edges of the defensive line, we have two new positions in the jack and the X backer. What will PK use these two positions to accomplish?
PK personally coaches the ends, the outside linebacker hybrid guys. And because he's coaching them, they are a linchpin to his defense. He teaches them a lot of stuff. So they're learning how to drop back and cover a little bit in their match 3 zone coverages. He lets them play outside end. So they're kind of playing the quarterback. They're playing the ball on their way to the quarterback a lot of times. They get to be a little bit aggressive. But he'll also, he's teaching them to read and react. He'll teach them to two gap as well, shove some guys inside and close gaps. He's playing athletes, and if you look at their numbers at Washington, his end guys were putting up some pretty good numbers in the pass rush, getting sacks, because he gives them a lot of different ways to attack the quarterback. But he is asking a lot of these guys. He puts a lot on their plate with a few different techniques, a few different basically tactics for if you see this, do this. If you see this, do this. This defense will work out if in a few years we're hearing about, Texas's defensive end university. That'll be what you expect to hear if this PK hire goes as well as Texas fans hope it will.
Okay, so how is Coach Kwiatkowski using his defensive front to deceive opposing offenses and force mistakes from quarterbacks?
One thing that PK does to try to create as much confusion and multiplicity as he can, especially in the pass rush, is that he will build the same 3 deep zone defenders, 4 underneath zone defenders, 4 pass rushers. That's the structure. But he'll get there a million different ways. Like the 4 different pass rushers will change from play to play. In one play, the Mike linebacker will blitz and the jack will drop. Another play, the X will drop and the nickel will blitz. But they're always creating that same structure of 4 deep, 3 under, 4 pass rushers. but with lots of movement and lots of confusion for the offense on who ends up where. So you have a couple different effects from that. One is that the offensive line becomes less confident about who they're blocking. They start wasting blockers and failing to pick up pass rushers, and then maybe the quarterback loses track of who's in what zone, and he throws somewhere where he thinks there isn't coverage and there is coverage, or he looks up to throw, realizes there's a linebacker dropping, has to hold it, and then the safety he didn't realize was blitzing is ear holding him from the blind side. That's the idea. That's how this is intended to draw up to work. It's honestly, to go back to the Steelers analogy, it's a nickel modern adaptation of sort of the Steelers zone blitz defenses that they were playing in the 90s and the 2000s when they were good on defense and going to the Super Bowl.
Since we are going to have a bunch of guys moving around to confuse quarterbacks, how many guys will we see on the line of scrimmage on defense? 3 guys on the line, 4? What should we expect?
They will have a lot of different fronts they can play in this defense. They'll have a lot of the 2-4-5 nickel defense fronts that look like they're going to look a lot like a 4 down. It's just that the outside linebacker and guys will be standing up a lot. I think they'll also play some 3 down stuff. They'll probably play some of the same tight front defense that Todd Orlando used. They ran a lot of that in Washington as well. I think we'll see some of that at Texas. They'll play, 2 guys with their hands in the dirt, 4 on the line, 3 guys with their hands in the dirt, 4 on the line, 5 guys on the line. They'll mix it up. If they're on the opponent's 25, they got a lot of field behind them, it might be, more 2-4-5. If they're backed up in their own red zone, they might be playing more odd front to get 4 or 5 guys up on the line of scrimmage to start squeezing the offense and making them feel a little more pressure. I think PK likes to have a lot of different tools in his toolbox for different situations and making the most of different personnel.
Our new defense generally uses 2 linebackers off the line as well. You have your middle linebacker and your weak side linebacker, who is also referred to as a dime backer in this scheme. Their roles are also different than traditional linebackers. So what are these 2 guys looking to achieve on the field?
One thing that PK does that I've been wanting to see from Texas for years and years is that he'll play the faster, more coverage capable linebacker in the middle, that Mike linebacker, and then the heavier plugger guy that's more downhill, blowing up blocks, playing inside the gaps. He'll play him at the whale or dime position. With Todd Orlando, he would do it the opposite. So he'd have, Gary Johnson playing the weak side, and then, Anthony Wheeler in 2018 playing in the middle. The problem is that the middle linebacker may traditionally be the downhill linebacker, but when you face spread offenses in the Big 12, they'll make that guy cover by putting 3 receivers to the wide side of the field. And then he's got to get out there and cover, and then he's got to commit to one or the other. If he commits to stopping the pass, then you run it inside. And no matter how physical he might have been, if he's in the box, he can't get to the box in time. And, Texas did the same thing last year with Juwan Mitchell. So help me God. I'm so glad I don't have to watch this anymore. Juwan Mitchell, not a bad player. He might go to Kansas State and be a useful player for them, but they had him in no man's land at times where he's, having to cover halfway out to the hash marks. It just does not work. For years and years, Kwiatkowski has been ahead of the game there. He'll play his faster guy at that position. And he will not let teams create the same amount of space and run past conflict on the linebacker. So a little bit more division of labor in PK's linebacker core, and in particular, he's where Todd Orlando would want his fastest guy in the box so he could blitz him. PK is a little more aware that he needs that guy erasing space, or else the blitz is never going to get home.
Yeah, man, this isn't your grandma's middle linebacker. He has to be able to cover. So coverage is also a big theme in the Big 12 and with this defense as well. This year's DBs are a bright spot, and there will be 5 of them on the field for the most part. How does using a nickel defense with 5 defensive backs instead of 4 alter the game for opposing offenses?
5 defensive backs in the field it's well, it used to be a game changer in the Big 12 when Oklahoma was doing it with Roy Williams. Now it's kind of absolute necessity. If you don't have at least 5 guys you can run and cover, you are, it's going to be a long day, a really long day, because the other team's going to keep throwing the ball and stopping the clock. So not only are you going to get killed, it's going to take 4.5 hours for you to die. So Texas, they will be more nickel now. I expect them to be a very nickel defense, meaning that rather than just putting a big safety out wide on a slot receiver and saying, we're still going to play like a 4-3, but we have a smaller linebacker. They're going to play legitimate nickel corner type guys in the nickel, guys who can run, cover, carry a receiver down the field, flip his hips and run. He's not going to be needed to play the edge so much in the run game because they have those hybrid outside linebackers trying to keep the ball funneled inside. So the nickel and the corners, these guys are all going to be cover guys. When they tackle, it's because they're cleaning up, usually for someone else's mistake. They're not primary run stopping, big hitting guys. It's all about having speed on the field to be able to match and play man coverage against these teams' top receivers. And for years, Big 12 teams have been able to get cheap advantages on Texas just by avoiding some of their good cover defenders and getting good receivers matched up on guys that aren't as good in coverage. And I think that will be drastically diminished with the new approach.
As far as coverage is concerned, we are going to be in a 2-high shell, meaning that the defense will appear to be in cover 2 with 2 high safeties. But often that will just be a disguise to allow us to go into different coverages, like cover 1 and cover 3. So how will all of our safeties be used in our coverage, and what will they do to trip up quarterbacks?
I think the defense will try to keep offenses from knowing where the safeties will be after the snap, bring a little bit of disguise. But for the most part, I think they'll be looking to just kind of man up teams with athletes, drop the biggest, meanest safety around near the box. One of the sort of trade-offs of having 2 ends that are playing everything outside in is that you need a big box safety to come down every now and then to help account for all the inside runs. So I think we'll see some of these safeties get down and mix it up some, and one of them probably dropping to the deep middle, but they're not going to make it super obvious when they can avoid it, who's doing what.
And how are the corners looking to play? Are they press man up on the line, or do they play off the ball, or is it a strategic mix?
They'll mix it up for sure. They'll play a few different coverages. I think for the most part, the corner's job in this defense is don't get beat deep. So line up across the receiver, keep him in front of you. That's number one. Don't let him run by you and score. And then the devil's in the details. The really good ones will be sorted out by the ones that can take away the deep throw, but then still affect the underneath throws and break on the ball, tackle. You don't want to just give away easy throws outside. They'll try to mix in some more like press man when they can. They'll play some press bail where it looks like they're tight, and then they drop deep, just so the quarterback doesn't know he can just pitch it out for an easy 5 yards. But yeah, overall, you don't want to lose the game out there. So that'll be number one.
And the 2 safeties also have specific roles. So we have a field safety and a boundary safety. So what are the key differences in a field and a boundary safety within our defense?
The main one is just the field safety plays on the wider side of the field. So he has to play in more space, cover more ground. The boundary safety is going to be closer to the box most of the time. He's probably going to be more of your big box safety, although they'll both do a little bit of everything. So I think they'll tend to play, the bigger, more physical, old school, strong safety type in the boundary, and then the field safety be more your modern, athletic, good ball skills, can play some man coverage kind of cover safety.
Good stuff, man. When looking at the entire defense as a whole, what makes PK's defense so hard to deal with?
PK's defense has a lot of modern athletes, hybrids, confusion, movement up front, guys moving around in different places, a little bit of positionless football with guys being asked to do multiple things. Yet, at the end of the day, it's ultimately an old school cover three, keep the ball in front of you, get off blocks and tackle people defense. So while it should be fun, it should be adaptable to defending Big 12 offenses. Old school fans will be probably happy to know that it's still about playing disciplined football, beating blocks, making tackles, not letting them throw it over your head.
Now let's talk about the structure of the spring game a little bit. What do you expect the overall level of play to be?
I think they're going to have 25% capacity, I believe. Either 25% capacity or 25,000 fans. Some number having to do with 25. I think those numbers are quite pretty close anyway. So the players are going to be juiced up. They're getting to play in front of fans, which they could only do sporadically last year. And I think they'll be eager to show off what they've been working on. We got a lot of young players that are playing for the first time. So I expect it to be energetic. I expect it to be a little bit sloppy at times, especially if they draft teams and so they don't have guys playing next to each other that are used to communicating with each other and playing next to each other. And I expect them to probably pull out a few little fun gimmicks for the fans before they shut things down. Probably they'll give the ball to Bijan a couple times. Everyone will ooh and ah, and then they'll get him the heck out of there and start, plowing walk-on running backs into Coburn over and over again.
So if they do go 1-versus-1s, who do you expect to win? My money is on defense since they appear to be further along, and offense is timing based, and that just takes time and repetition. So what's your take on that?
If they play 1-versus-1s, it would be shocking if the first team defense didn't win. Actually, they are going to score it by traditional football rules. So the second team offense would have to score points to win. So as I'm verbally processing this, I'm less convinced that the first team defense would win. I think it'd probably be a low scoring affair, and I don't know. It could go either way, actually.
I guess we'll have to tune in and watch, just like everybody else. And the spring games aren't the finished product you'll see in the fall. They're just a fun snapshot for the fans to see where we're going. So, what is a fan actually trying to get out of the spring game?
I think it's mostly about, for a fan, it's mostly about watch the exciting young players, hopefully see some good athletes do some athletic things that you can be excited about. Don't get married to any positions that you develop on which quarterback is best or what the team will be exactly. But, be a fan, let your imagination run wild in a positive direction, or, what else are we doing this for if it's not to have fun and have some hope. My favorite story with spring games is I remember as a younger guy at UT watching John Childs getting so excited with how athletic and fast he was, and then just being like, I don't know, maybe this Childs guy should play more. And, that was clearly wrong. Colton McCoy was a very good player that needed to be on the field as much as possible. But you get fooled. And then I remember overreacting to that before the 2016 spring game. And I was on Twitter. If you read like a timeline of my tweets, it was like, okay, everybody remember, like, don't get too excited about what different quarterbacks do in this game. You never know. It's just a scrimmage. It's just a spring game. These things are scripted. You don't know. And then like Shane Buechele made a couple throws, and I'm like, forget all that. Shane Buechele is the starter. There's no question. He's going to be the starter next year, which was right. I was right. But, these things, you can make too much of them. You can make too little of them. Just pick whichever is more fun.
Ian, thanks so much for coming by, man. I love your work, and I always learn a lot from every single article I read from you. And I also want you to come back soon so we can talk some more seam stuff and go even more in depth for the hardcore. So thank you for coming on, brother, and please tell the fans where they can find you.
Thanks so much for having me. Everybody, if you enjoy this sort of in-depth talk about Texas football, check out Inside Texas. Also, we have the Flyover Football Board on Inside Texas. It's free. You don't have to be a member to read it. And we go in depth on the other teams in the Big 12. So if you just really enjoy this level of football talk, you want to learn more about Oklahoma, Iowa State, TCU, anybody else in the conference, check out the Flyover Football Board.
Yeah, seriously, go check that out. Ian will make sure you understand the ins and outs of what to expect from us and our opponents. And that's a wrap for ENA Boyd, everybody. I'm just as excited as you are for the spring game, and I can't wait to watch and talk about it with all of you. So watch more of my videos here and consider joining as a channel member. And as always, hook 'em.